right, well, here we go. Take two on the Fox and Pheasant of our September shipment. I know I sent it in the email, but we did this initial recording well in advance along with the other videos, sent everything out. And once we started getting the editing, we realized that somehow I had turned the microphone off on the last recording. So we looked like a bunch of assholes talking in like a silent movie for about 20 minutes. So we're going to trim it up for you a little bit. We're going to get back and talk about what we shipped you this month. And I think we now have it all kind of worked out, so that's not going to be a problem again. So welcome. Hopefully you enjoyed your pour last pour. That's one hell of a way to start off. I think that we definitely went for it all in that first shipment. But we decided to trade it up or change it up just a little bit this month, and I want to give we wanted to give you something a little bit different to try this month. So hopefully you have got everything out, ready and prepared. I also wanted to acknowledge, if you guys are just watching these videos, go back and also watch the society videos. Mm-hmm. This month's video, we decided to really go back to the basics, and it's all about tasting whiskey and getting the most out of your tasting experience. And we really went with, I know we sent you also in your email through a separate campaign, a tasting wheel and a tasting 101 kind of sheet. But we really went through a lot of details in that first video that we think will help you in your tasting experience in the Fox and Pheasant as well. So if you have not seen it, go back and watch that one as well. I think you might change a couple things that you're doing as you taste. So
sure.
So we appreciate you. So let's get to it. Let's talk about your pour this month a little bit.
So we're excited. I mean, we're jumping into IW Harper. It's a 15-year bourbon. It's about $75 to $100 MSRP if you can find it, and it's got a unique backstory, cool bottle, and I think Mike's going to jump in, tell us a little bit about that backstory, and give us a little bit of history.
Yeah, you said the first thing is like, this is a bottle that jumps off of you on the shelf if you just see it because it looks special. If you pick it up, you're going to go like, oh my God, what is in this? Because it's like unicorn juice, the sweat off a unicorn, right? So a unicorn's horn. This thing is just, an absolute beautiful Art Deco bottle. You could bludgeon someone with this thing. It's got weight to it. You can tell it's thick glass. You know when you pick this up that the makers think it's special. You can tell they put enough into it. This isn't a marketing scheme. They take a lot of pride in it. So a little bit about IW Harper, a very old world bourbon. Started making American whiskey and bourbon in 1872, and made it for very successfully a huge market share for American whiskey for 120 years. It was in the mid 90s as it was acquired and kind of started changing ownership hands, that it started to just kind of get pulled back from the U.S. shelves and focused on foreign consumption. So if you've heard of Four Roses, a very similar concept. The Japanese and Asian markets have had huge demand for American whiskey for a long period of time, but really starting in the 80s on. And a lot of them focused on just selling there because they had lost their market share, so to speak, in America. So got a real good foothold over in Asia. And in 1995, mid-90s, I'm not sure if it's 95 or not, but the mid-90s came back to American, I'm sorry, I take that back, forgive me. It was the 90s that they left, somewhere around 95. 2015 is when they came back to American shelves, and they brought two offerings. IW Harper, which is a very simple, straightforward, solid, everyday bourbon. It's a $20 bourbon, $25 bourbon, still a plastic screw top. And you'll notice about me as we get into Weller. Weller's one of the most prestigious bourbons out there to find right now, and 5 years ago it was in plastic caps, so it's not a deterrent to me. But they came out with that guy, and they also came back with this 15-year expression. So this is what they have offered as their kind of flagship bourbon now with IW Harper. Distilled in the New Bernheim distillery. So New Bernheim makes a wheated whiskey. You can still find that in shelves a lot of places for in the mid-20s to $30. It's a great bargain. It's a great whiskey. Not a traditional bourbon, but a very soft, easy to drink whiskey. It is then aged in Weller-Stitzel warehouses, which the more you read, the more you hear us. We'll talk about that like it's, oh. Yeah. And then finally bottled in Tennessee. And that is bottled by Diageo now. And Diageo is, until recently, the largest distributor of adult beverages in the world. They've got the Smirnoffs, they've got the Johnny Walker, they've got, just a gazillion big brands underneath their umbrella of all types of spirits. And so they are now the owner and distributor of I.W. Harper. But original blend, really cool mash bill. So this is a high corn mash bill, 86% corn, only 6% rye, and 8% malted barley. That I believe that high corn mash bill is where we get some of that sweetness, complexity, some pretty cool flavors going on. So, you want to let's give a.
I do.
Yeah.
And it's only 86 proof, I think.
Yeah, 86 proof.
So it's not quite the 90.
Yeah.
At most.
This isn't I'm going to light myself on fire when I take a sip of it kind of bourbon. But because of, I think, the corn, the lack of any wheat, the lack of it, there is a bit of a bite. I mean, it's got some heat, but it's a subtle heat. It's a
15-year. I mean, which is finding a 15-year on the market is fairly rare for this price point.
For sure. But the age is, I think, what softens it and gives it its complexity.
Absolutely.
Often, when we pour you, and as we talk about it, you'll see some of these 15-plus year guys that get overly oaked. They start to take on a wet oak flavor, or you really just can't not taste the oak. And I think the one thing about this guy that really makes it a great drinking whiskey is it's got lots of layers, and you're going to taste those layers kind of unfold both through the palate and through the finish.
Well, it's a lot of fruit.
Yeah.
Fruity, which is good.
Yeah, so
still get the oaky.
Right off the nose, you're going to get cherry and apricot, like bright, little bit of an acidic kind of fruit. Then you're going to get into, I think it calms down a little bit into citrus.
I think so too.
Like an orange and lemony kind of flavor.
Yeah, you get a little bit of raisin.
Yeah, not as much candied. Sometimes these take on a real candied fruit. And I think this guy is just really clean. It's very, compared to what we gave you last month, this is a much cleaner but very complex bourbon for 15 years.
And I think that's what the years do to it.
Yeah. And then finally, I think as you let this one really benefits from swirling, letting some of that ethanol out, getting some oxygen into it, letting it breathe. And as it opens up a little bit is when you start to get that herbal mint. And you mentioned that in the first video that had no sound, that you're like, oh, there it is. I'm getting some mint now. Mint into some dark chocolate. So go ahead and give yourself a chance to give it a smell as we did that, and give yourself your first taste as well, and see what first thing hits you on the palate. We're going to do the same thing. I forget, it's just good.
It is.
There's not a lot of bite. I don't get a burn in the mouth at all.
You get a little bit of heat, but then it just kind of calms down.
It feels like the heat, you can feel it.
Yeah.
Like
dissipates
oozing down on the inside of your chest. And that's what I just really, really like about it. You get the mild fruit right at the beginning. It calms down. It smells fruitier than it tastes.
Absolutely.
For sure. I don't get the same fruit, but it's there, and it's the first note you get. But then very light oak, very light leather. The leather's a little more prevalent to me than anything in that middle body, but it turns a little creamy. Second sip's different than the first. Third sip's different than the second. So make sure you take your time. Don't chug this thing. Sip it. Think about it. Use your wheel. Think about what you're tasting, and then try it again.
And if you tuned into the society pour that we did earlier, we talked a lot about ice.
Yep.
We talked about different kinds of glasses and things. So check that out, because the ice, a cube in this, also will open it up a little bit. And
it'll
save a
definitely
little bit if you do to do both.
Yeah. That's the advantage of the size pour you're getting, is you can try it both ways. This will definitely get a little creamier. The mouthfeel will get creamier, but I think you might even get a little bit more of a milk chocolate on the back end with some ice in it. So
Agreed.
great piece with the palate. Finishing wise though, turns into a vanilla and caramel with again. Like I know some of these flavors start to sound like we're just saying the same words on everything, but it's way different levels of intensity. Sometimes it's a baking vanilla versus a very mild vanilla. You know, a light.
Well, we are saying the same things. It's just that every single American whiskey or bourbon has different complexities to it.
Yeah.
That's the way it's put together, and a lot of them are themed like this, but that's okay. I mean,
Yeah, we didn't mention mint. We didn't mention much citrus.
No.
And really not as much fruit in the first whiskey because that was a vanilla bomb and
You don't typically get a lot of mint
No.
and those types of flavors, but you do in this, and that's what makes it kind of unique.
I think I remember what I said last time, and I just got it as well. As mine sits, and while I get some of that sweetness coming through, it's dry, it's very layered. I constantly get like an English tea.
You mentioned that before, the herbal tea, but I think it's more of an English tea.
Yeah, and I get that kind of little
Or even
acidic.
it could be a little minty tea.
Yeah,
A little bit.
So like it's there for me, and see what you think. You know, again, our goal for this is to continue to send you some things that maybe you'd see, but I don't think if you didn't know what this was, that you might go in for $100 not knowing if you'd like it.
Yeah.
But it also just shows the dynamic between something that's so heavy hitting and really punches you in the mouth as soon as you taste it in the Weller, to something that's calmed down, complex, has layers, opens up slightly differently, in something that's again you don't see it very often because they just don't make nearly as much, but there's not like this clamoring for the second this hits shelves everywhere. People are, tripping their mothers to find a way to get it, like a Blanton's or something.
It looks like
that.
a cognac kind of bottle. When you look at it, it's just you sometimes would look at it and not even think that there's bourbon in it.
If this club wasn't going to get you an automatic decanter later on this year, this would be like the one I'd be like, go find this bottle and make this your decanter.
Absolutely.
Because it's just beautiful. If you find it and you like it, pick yourself one up, because this one isn't like cost prohibitive like some of them will be. Yeah. That first bourbon that we poured you can possibly find on the secondary market for $400 to $500.
Yeah.
This one would probably peak out at like $120. But you can find it in the right place for less than $80. So wanted to make sure that we opened this up to you to show you the range of aged bourbons, because it's way more complex. And these are both straight Kentucky bourbon, or at least bourbons. And we're going to send you some other things this year you're going to have to scratch your head and go, I don't even know what's in this. This is so different. But these are very two similar expressions, but have way different compositions, way different finishes, way different drinking experiences.
We're also going to send a lot of pours that are available, but just not as readily available as we'd like them to be, or they're available but they're really expensive.
We want to share that, right?
Yeah, but we're really trying to get the right types of bourbons out there that are rare in this type of a business, because most of the time, folks are bringing something that's expensive one month, and the next month you're getting something that's not so good, but that's not what we do. So this is a good find, and I'd recommend it. It is out there, it's available. You can find it at your Total Wines, maybe your BevMo's.
Yeah, for the most part, most of you that are on this video, you know us. You have our information. You know how to get in touch with us. Yeah. One of the things that we're constantly balancing right now as we do these videos is, would you rather see us make fun of each other and drink whiskey and tell you a few things? Or do you really like the fact that we are presenting more information? And we're
put that in the comments.
Yeah. We don't know what this is. We told you that from the beginning. We know that we want to share whiskey with you. We're going to give it to you. We're going to give you some other benefits. But from this format, I think we're constantly trying to figure out, are people really into this and they really want to learn? And therefore, we want to respect that and make sure that we give it to you the way that we would like to get it if we were in a class. At the same time, we sometimes feel really stiff
Yeah.
And we want to make sure that we're having fun. So, so as we go through it, let us know exactly how you're taking this and how you'd like to actually see us present the information. Because I think we'd like to get to the point where we are presenting good information. At the same time, we don't have to act. We can just be ourselves.
Yeah, and that's the whole point, is to be ourselves and have good conversation and, taste whiskey together. And even though we can't do it in the same place, I hope that we both hope that you guys enjoy this aspect of it. And, we'll keep making them, and you can choose to watch
just
them or not.
tell us what you want to see.
Yeah, tell us what you want to see.
In the meantime, we're going to get this one out and in the box and sent to you because we know it's late. But we are on the same page here for the next week or so. So we're going to turn around very quickly, get the next shipment out, and try to package that up so you have October's pour in October, and then we'll be on schedule. So
and you're gonna like it.
Yeah,
it's gonna be a good one.
Yeah, appreciate your patience, and we'll talk to you guys again real soon.
All right.
Cheers.
Cheers.
We're off for another pour.